and a Bachelor of the Arts in Political Science and a minor in Liberal Arts and Legal Thought. He knows what he's going to talk about because I asked him to help out Mississippi. So here he is, the president of the Memphis chapter of NORML, John Marek. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank Ms. Kelly Jacobs here. We've actually known each other for over a decade now, and I have to say there's two types of people that are attracted to community activism and politics, and it's you have opportunists and you have public servants. Thank you for your public service all these years. You've always stood up on issues that may not have been the popular issue to stand up on, but they needed strong people to give a speech. And I'm used to, you got me a little nervous now because I'm used to speaking after some pretty, with a few exceptions, especially Congressman Cohen, he's amazing. But I'm used to following speakers that are not so wonderful, and so now you've raised the bar. But as you said, my name's John Marek, and I think I'm actually uniquely positioned to speak on this issue because I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, off Riverdale and Shelby Drive, and I had a really interesting experience compared to most people that are like me, I guess I should say, because when I would drive home, I would get pulled over frequently in my neighborhood because they wanted to know why I was there. I grew up in an African-American neighborhood, and they assumed because of me that I must be out there to buy drugs, and I was like, I live right there. It's my neighborhood. This is where I grew up. I also saw a lot of people in my neighborhood get harassed constantly, and I don't blame the police for this. I blame the system, and I promise you later in my speech I am going to get to that. But I'll never forget when I started when I co-founded the University of Memphis NORML chapter in 2006 with a brilliant young woman, a geology major. I wanted her to be the president because she's brilliant, and a young man named Jason M. Botter. He was an extremely important part of that group as well. We, after a meeting, an elected official approached me, and he said, John, you have a lot of promise, but if you keep talking about this marijuana law reform issue, you're not going to be able to go anywhere. And I smiled at him, and I said, well, when I got into politics and community activism, I did it for a reason. I'm here for a cause. I'm not here if that means I can't go far, then I guess I just won't go that far. And we see how much the issue's changed over the years. That's what happens when you stand up for an issue that might not be popular, but everyone knows it's right. Anyways, I'm very proud of the work that we did with University of Memphis NORML, and a young, brilliant woman and soon-to-be law student, Hallie Flanagan, is actually restarting that chapter now, so I'm really happy to see that coming back up, and she's going to do an excellent job. When Tennessee NORML formed recently, I looked at it, and I looked at who founded it. We had Doak Patton, former prosecutor, Francis Perry, who's connected to the whole music industry in Nashville. He's an amazing guy. And then we had Paul Kuhn, who's on the National NORML Board, and on the Tennessee NORML Board, and I believe he's a retired investment banker, and both of them are going to get on to me if I got any of their information wrong. But we have a very strong and qualified group to be running that Tennessee NORML chapter. It currently has somewhere around 27,000 to 28,000 likes, which is unheard of. I'm not used to seeing that, and they're very qualified people. And when I saw that, I said, okay, it's time. We need NORML Memphis. And I brought back the old guard from University of Memphis NORML, plus a couple of new people, including a brilliant young man named Tyler Marshall, who's the president of Students for a Sensible Drug Policy at Rhodes. And he is science-based. I'm the political guy, and I know issues and policy. He's the science guy, and he's a neuroscience soon-to-be graduate from Rhodes, and cannot stress how useful he's been because he can bring in the research. Anyways. We have NORML Memphis in place now. We have Tennessee NORML in place now, and we're going to be ready to help y'all when the time comes, and actually comes now. And I have to say on this, and I hope people don't take this word wrong, but as a strategist, when I first saw this, I thought, ooh, they should push medical before they push recreational marijuana. However, after thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Working for Congressman Cohen all these years has taught me to speak truth to power. And I commend y'all for taking a brave stance on this issue that affects so many people. Medical marijuana is across the country already, and being able to push this is going to send a message that we're ready for change in the South. Now, I want to say that this issue is not just a civil liberty issue, though that's a really big reason I'm involved in it, because I believe in the Constitution and I believe in our civil liberties. But it's not just a civil liberty issue, and that issue is important enough reason to support it, but it's also an economic and anti-poverty issue. Why are we wasting taxpayer dollars arresting citizens over a plant safer than alcohol, medically legal in over half the country, and recreationally legal in 4 states in our nation's capital. We need to raise revenue, not lose it. We also, when these people get arrested, I mean, we're tarnishing records. I mean, I'm a criminal defense attorney now. That's currently what I'm doing. And I see all the time these young people, especially, who have a lot of promise, but then we're putting this on their record. What do you think someone's going to do when they have a bad record and they can't get a job? What do you think they're going to turn to? I mean, what do you think that these people are going to do when they can't find jobs? And what do you think happens to the working population when you drug test them over a substance less deadly than nutmeg? And look that up, by the way. Google that. A lot of people don't know that. It's less deadly than nutmeg. It's something you can buy at the grocery store. Oh. Anyways, society has come way too far scientifically. The excuse against the movement used to always be, oh, well, there's not enough research. We need more research. There's research now. We have plenty of it. And we've come way too far. Ask Tyler Marshall from SSDP. We've come way too far scientifically. And we know the ignorance, hatred, and racism this drug war was originally rooted in. 5%, the United States is 5% of the world's population, yet we make up 25% of the world's prison population. Mississippi, the #1 poverty state in the country, locks up more people per capita than China and Russia combined. Wow. This must end, and this measure is a good step in the right direction. The solicitation issue that you brought up earlier brought back all kind of. I love constitutional issues and reading precedent and looking into all this stuff, and it brought out the inner attorney in me when I hear this, because it makes me so angry to hear that one of think about it, the amendments in our Constitution, what's number 1?
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech. And not only is freedom of speech the most protected right, political speech is put on an even higher standard. So to think that anyone would ever turn anyone away, regardless of what issue it is, to speak out on that issue in a public area and to collect signatures to push, especially in this case, a worthy cause, it disheartens me. And when I was in Colorado, actually, there's some precedent out there. I was working on campaigns in Colorado last year, and a lot of people, because it's a battleground state, so many people knock on their doors, and I feel bad for the people there because they do get sick of hearing political speech at their doors. So they put up no soliciting on their doors, so that, assuming that that's going to tell those kind of people to leave them alone. And because freedom of speech is so protected, the Colorado State Supreme Court ruled that that's political speech at a door for any kind of campaign or issue is not solicitation, and therefore is not banned by those signs that people put up. So if you're an informed voter in Colorado, you know if you don't want that kind of speech at your door, you need to be much more clear about it, because solicitation in their minds is when people are trying to sell you something. Anyways, I want to say also, and I want to point this out because I actually feel bad for our first responders, and to a certain extent on this whole issue. We have a national police issue, and this is actually something I've been working on a lot myself. And I want to say loud and clear, and Mr. Noyes, thank you for joining us, and I hope you don't. I hope listen to my whole point on this before you judge. But I want to say that don't blame the police, blame the system. Just as U.S. soldiers don't pick the countries they invade, officers and law enforcement don't pick the laws they enforce. That's what people in the state capitol and in City Hall and in the national and in the U.S. Capitol, that's where those laws are made. We need our officers. We know that we live in times in certain areas, especially in the state I'm speaking in right now, where poverty is a huge issue, and when you have poverty, you have crime. I'm not going to go into the whole poverty issue today because that's going to get way off topic. But I will say that we need our officers, and we need them to help us keep our streets safe. At the end of movie Tora, 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 there was a quote, and it's I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and to fill him with a terrible resolve. When y'all had the bravery to stand up on this issue, NORML Memphis noticed, and you awoken a sleeping giant, and we're going to be there to help you when you need us. And oh no, one more thing. I have to go back on this issue because I'm so passionate about it. I want to fill y'all in on some work I've done. Like I said, don't blame the officers, blame the system, and that's why I've been doing a lot of work on this issue. I was the first person in Memphis to call out for body cameras on police officers when I read that Rialto, California implemented a similar program. And within the first year, there was a reduction of 60% of use of force by the police, and there was a reduction in, I want to say it was 88 or 89, I need to get that right in my head, but 88 or 89% reduction in lawsuits against the police. So these body cameras, they protect the police, because they do get fraudulent claims against them at times. They protect the citizens, and they protect taxpayer dollars. It made sense, complete sense, and that's why when a Vanderbilt poll came out recently in Tennessee, 86% of respondents supported it. How often do you hear of an issue where 86% of people support it? You never hear that. So it's a wonderful issue. And in addition to that, I've also been a member, I'm on the Citizen Law Enforcement Review Board, which is a citizen board that oversees the police. And our goal is not to be anti-police. Our goal is to rebuild the trust between the public and the police that unfortunately has been lost. And I just want to say today that NORML Memphis may be in Tennessee, but we support you. And Mississippi is already an early state when it comes to decriminalization. This is why a lot of people don't know that, but Mississippi has already decriminalized marijuana. So you're already going in the right direction. Let's continue that. Let's gather the signatures. Let's make sure this ballot passes, or ballot initiative passes. Our time is not the future. It's now. And with your help and your efforts, I know out there in Mississippi, I know a lot of y'all are afraid to stand up on this issue. But at the end of the day, I mean, this one of the most quotable quotes in our nation's history is, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And apathy and thinking that you're sticking your nose up to the system when you don't vote, that's not sticking your nose up to the system, that's surrendering to it. We need you to get involved. We need you to turn your bleeding hearts into bleeding hands. And we need you to get these signatures so that we can make a difference. Think about how this would look in our country if Mississippi, I shouldn't say we, Memphis, I said we, and it's funny that I said that because I've always heard this quote, Mississippi has 3 big cities, Jackson, Memphis, and New Orleans. Now, technically it's not true, but y'all know what I mean when I say that. Before I finish up today, I have one more actual quote I'd like to give, and this was from Margaret Winter, the Associate Director for the ACLU's National Prison Project. Quote, "The Mississippi prison system is in a crisis of over-incarceration, and that crisis will continue as long as the state imposes wildly excessive sentences, allows private corporations to reap profit from mass incarceration, and locks people up in conditions so nightmarish that some will never recover physically or mentally." That's the truth, people. And it's an issue that used to be more of a fringe issue to recognize this and to see this. But as we look at Congress even, there is a coalition building of both Republicans and Democrats, and I'll be the first to say it. As much as I have chosen a side, I wish we didn't have a two-party system. I wish that we had proportional representation and that more voices could be heard in our country. But we do, and it's promising to see, not only in Tennessee, where we now have State Senator Dickerson pushing medical marijuana in Tennessee. He's a medical doctor, Republican state senator. That's exactly the kind of voice we need in Tennessee pushing this issue. And when we look at the coalition forming on the national level, it's so promising. People are realizing that sentencing reform is so needed. And when former Senator Jim Webb proposed the sentencing reform, I was so disappointed to see that fall in Congress. But I'm hoping, with the help of great leaders like Congressman Cohen and so many other members in Congress that are starting to stand up on this issue, that we can actually start to push this issue forward and see real change. Thank y'all so much for allowing me to speak today and putting up with my cards over here. I got to keep me on topic.
Yay.
But y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll love to take questions. Who's got questions?
I have a question. I can go first. Do you think that Tennessee got to legalize industrial hemp because of Kentucky?
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think it also has to do with the geography. When you look at where it grows best in the country, it actually, I want to say it's California, Colorado, but then the other places that people overlook so often are especially East Tennessee and Kentucky specifically. And of course the South, period. Everything, like there's currently a drought in California right now where they're having trouble with food production. And the answer to that is, let's stop using water they don't have out there and let's start bringing a lot of the food production in this country to the South. And just as food production goes well in the South, so does hemp. And particularly, though, I do have to point out specifically that, and as much as I want to say Memphis, I have to point out that East Tennessee and Eastern Kentucky, because of the mountain climate, is particularly good for it. And think about it, I mean, this is money, once again, and I can think of so many other issues in our city or state or country, where we basically have like an opportunity to raise revenue and a natural disposition to do it, yet because so many people are afraid to speak truth to power, we're not able to do it. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, I asked you that because I see Mississippi's initiative as being very liberal compared to what the rest of the nation has done. No other state has just flat out regulated it. They have so many caveats on how much you can have, possession, etc. And so I'm wondering if you think that that if industrial hemp rubbed off on Tennessee, if then our ballot initiative might rub off on Tennessee also.
I would hope so. I think. Well, I mean, when we saw Arkansas almost pass medical marijuana, I honestly, when I heard that was going on, to this day, I'm kicking myself for not going up there and working my heart out on that, because I'm situated close to Arkansas as well, and I just thought it would never have a chance. Like deep down, I said, I love that they're doing that, but I don't think it's going to happen. Look what happened when Arkansas voted. They lost that vote 52-48. I mean, imagine if more people like me, especially, I should be ashamed of myself for this, if more people like me hadn't been sitting at home thinking, oh, this is not going to happen, then they would have gotten involved. They wouldn't have been afraid to show up. They wouldn't have been afraid to voice their opinions. And medical marijuana would currently exist in Arkansas if that had happened. When we look down at Florida, they had a big initiative where they pushed it. And unfortunately, they needed a 60% threshold in order to accomplish that. They came within, I believe, 3% of reaching that threshold. And I've got a lot of friends in Florida that were excited about it and voted for it. People were fighting on that one. And I believe if they had pushed it in a presidential year as opposed to a midterm, it would have passed. So I hope that they're actually going to push that again in 2016. We've seen big changes on this issue out west. We're seeing it up north, and we're seeing it in the northeast. It's time to bring it to the south. And I think Mississippi, especially considering its stature in this country, is the #1 poverty state in the country. And when you look at all the other issues that have developed around this, and trust me, I went to Mississippi State for a semester. I know what the justice system down here is like. And and like I said, once again, I hope I hope people understand that I truly mean it when I say that we need our police, but we have to put the proper regulations in place so that they can do their job and so that the public can trust them. That is really the key to fixing the issue. And too many people I hear, it's always like bash on them. It's like, if it weren't for the people in the legislatures and the people on the city councils, if those people were putting the proper regulatory frameworks into place, we wouldn't be dealing with all these issues. Now, they're not the enemy. They're just enforcing the bad laws that unfortunately we've given them. And so, I'm hoping that Mississippi can take a huge stand here and make the difference.
I have another question.
Sure.
Okay, so what are you going to do to help Mississippi?
Well, now we have NORML Memphis, and thanks to my friend Lee Jenkins over here as our communications director, and other brilliant minds that have come together to basically show that they're fearless, show that they're willing to fight for an issue, not because it's popular or because they, but basically to fight for it because they truly believe in it and they're not afraid to stand up on it. And because of people like him and other people that have gotten into this group, we now have over 4,000 likes on Facebook at NORML Memphis. We have a wide group of people to reach out to, and I think we need. North Mississippi is it's practically walking distance from Memphis. We can bring people down here to help.
But John, we have 17,000 likes on our page. 17,000 likes, and we can't even get all the people who like it, who live in Mississippi, to sign a petition and turn it in. This is one of the hardest problems, and I'm wondering, you have a brilliant mind. What can we do to try and get people to sign a petition and turn it in? What is it going to take? Because we could get this done in a month. We could get all the signatures that we need signed on paper, because that's not a hard job, just to sign your name on a paper and have your friends and your family sign it and turn it in, and we could have all the signatures that we need. But there is a trigger that's missing, and I just, since I'm the Capitol Team Legalize, I gotta try and figure out what is missing. What can Tennessee do? Do you have some star power that can come down here and play some music to invite people to come and listen to the music and sign the petition? Or, you know, is there anything? Because people are going to watch you on the internet and they're going to wonder if they can do what you suggest.
I want to say that I'm happy to work with you on that idea. I think it's great, and I can talk to some certain people to see if I can get some star power down here. And I think we got a gentleman back here that would be great to speak up too.
I can give you the answer to your question. I think that my name is Lee Jenkins.
And tell us what you used to do.
I was a law enforcement officer for 10 years. I started with Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We moved down here to Mississippi. My wife was from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We met at a Mexican restaurant with a Irish name, or Harris Cantina. Got married to Vegas. Moved back to Memphis, Tennessee, where I was born, and I lived and I was raised in Mississippi until I was a teenager. Moved to California, Los Angeles. Very conservative Christian family, very fundamentalist conservative Christian
Same here.
family. I am very much, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I'm very much of a, what we would call, you know, because I took political science in college also at Cal State AV. I'm a classic liberal, which would what you would call today a conservative or a moderate conservative. I'm very libertarian. This is an issue that can actually bring political parties together. You know, I'm going to disagree with you on things. You're going to disagree with me on things. But I can tell you, the ex-law enforcement officer is a Christian and a libertarian, more conservative, moderate conservative. That there is a trust issue with this right now. I talk to a lot of people in my neighborhood. I live in Olive Branch. The neighborhood I live in is lily white and all conservative and pretty much Christian. And when you knock on the door and you talk to people, they'll tell you straight up, I'm for legalizing medical marijuana. I'm just not for legalizing recreational marijuana. A lot of them aren't quite there yet. When we were growing up in high school, our youth pastors told us marijuana was this evil demon weed and that we should never touch it. DARE came to our junior high school, our elementary school, came to our high school and said, this stuff is bad, don't touch it. So we grew up thinking, this stuff is bad, don't touch it. Also, as teenagers, we would sneak it and smoke it because we thought we were doing something really bad and we wanted to live on the edge. We thought smoking marijuana was really rebellious, you know. And so, you know, we did that. And, you know, it's going to take people like me to join hands and come across the aisle with people like you. I don't know what your political parties are. I can tell you, like I said before, I used to be Republican, now I'm more libertarian, and this is one of the issues why I'm libertarian. But it's going to take reaching across the aisle. It's going to take Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Conservatives, Christians, non-believers. It's going to take all of that to get this initiative passed in Mississippi. Because Mississippi's mentality is literally, and I hate to say this, it shames me to say that Mississippi leads in everything negative. We're number one in poverty. We're number one in education. When it comes to welfare, the thing that saddens me is this is the most supposedly conservative state in the union and the most Christian state in the union, but we're the most corrupt state in the union also. It's a fact, and it shames me to say that. How can that be? Well, this is one of the reasons why. If you look at Mississippi's prison population, as of January 2015, it was 18,885. You know how many people were in jail for marijuana?
How many?
10,835.
Oh.
More than half of our prison population is because of marijuana possession, sales, or growth. That, my friend, and as a Christian, I have to say this. I appreciate that sign. As a Christian, I'm completely and totally opposed to any prisons or any jails because it's not something you see biblically that God gave us covenant people. I'm not going to preach to you guys. I'm just telling you from a biblical perspective. Prisons never existed. Jails were temporary until you were sentenced, and it was restitution was I give you money or I get out of town. It was never let's lock somebody up in the human zoo and teach them how to be even more of a criminal. So Mississippians, especially conservative people in the camp I'm from, Christians, are just scared. They're worried about what the next guy's thinking. They're worried about what their next door neighbor's thinking. But I got the shock of my life last week when I was in a grocery store up in South Haven, and a pastor of a very large Baptist church. Now, Baptist, I don't know if you know about Southern Baptist, you're talking about conservative and uptight. I even got a problem with Baptist, and I'm a Christian. This Baptist pastor of a huge, well-known Baptist church, and I won't mention his name, we were talking this morning. He goes, oh, I'm for marijuana. I don't care about that. I'm for legalizing it. And I was like, brother, you need to talk.
Yeah.
You need to speak. And he goes, no, I can't. His congregation could probably fire him and get rid of him. The older generation, it's going to take, I'm sorry for talking so long. I probably speak, I love it.
Please.
It's another hour.
It's going to take people who have been convinced that this is an evil It's going to take people to be convinced it's evil. It's not. I told one of my friends today, the word perspective, very big word, a lot bigger than you think it is. Perspective, when our perspective is what shapes and molds what our world view is. Instead of seeing marijuana in the negative sense, because there's a balance to life and everything, there's negative things about marijuana. There's negative things about sleep. There's negative things about food. There's negative things about sex. Sorry to mention that. There is. There just is. Everything that's created, there's a balance in life. There's good and there's evil to it. People are concentrating on what's wrong with people, not marijuana. Marijuana is an inanimate object. And instead of concentrating on the heart and the mind of a person and their wicked intentions, we turn around and we say, boom, this is evil. You guys know who Andrew Clark Sr. is?
Yes.
Talk shows. I called him one time because he was making me really mad. He kept calling marijuana demon weed.
I've debated him on Fox 13 a few times.
Yeah, I said, brother, stop calling this demon weed, man. It's not a demon weed. There's 500 uses for this plant. It's absolutely miraculous and amazing. Now, I'm telling you, my wife, who's 6 years older than me, I nicknamed her Bob Marley because this woman probably smoked more dope than him growing up through high school. And I smoked a lot of marijuana myself. My name is Lee Jenkins. I don't mind telling people that. I smoked a whole lot of dope myself, and I hate calling it dope, I'm sorry, marijuana myself growing up. And you know what the worst thing that happened was? I got hungry, I laughed a whole lot, watched Saturday Night Live, laughed my butt off till I fell asleep, and got a great night's sleep and felt better the next day. I really did. And so, I'm going to skip way forward to 6 years ago. I'm 46 years old. Up until I was 40 years old, I ran 5 miles a day. I lifted weights, I was in the best shape of my life. And all of a sudden my back went out on me, and I developed arthritis in my lower back. Well, I was on Percocet, I was on Loratab, I was drinking lots of alcohol. It was tearing my stomach up. The doctor said your stomach's swollen. I had an upper GI because I'm like, man, I got stomach problems now. I said, well, all these physical problems. And so I started looking into the side effects of what these drugs do. Man, they kill you. Heart attack, stroke. And so then the light came on, and I said, wait a minute, my body's not synthetic. So if my body's not synthetic, why am I putting synthetic drugs in my body? My brother-in-law came over, and he still smokes cannabis, and he goes, hey, dude, you smoke this stuff, man, you'll feel better, I promise you. I'm like, no, man, he's done that in 25 years, bro, it's illegal. He goes, would you rather be illegally alive or legally dead? And I said, illegally alive makes a lot of sense. Give me some. So he gave me a pipe, and I smoked it. I got really, 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 really high. I don't know what he gave me, but it wasn't the weed that I smoked when I was a kid. I said, dude, what was that you gave me? He goes, that was some good stuff. I said, obviously, because I got up the next morning, and without sounding gross, I think I peed for probably 10 minutes. And my swelling came completely and totally off my back. And we know pain is a result of inflammation, swelling. I felt good for 3 days. I went from my wife having to wash me from the waist down and dry me off and put my underwear on me to being able to pick up 50-pound bags of cow manure and potting soil for my wife's garden after smoking it. I'm not joking. So I said, well, let me go research marijuana and see what this stuff is about, dude, because, you know, I'm a Christian and I'm an ex-police officer. This stuff is bad. You know, this was really bad. And when I did my research, I found out, no, this stuff's actually really good. There were no side effects. I found out you couldn't overdose on it. Man, I found out all kinds of great things about marijuana. That it cures cancer, ulcerative colitis. I mean, you name it, man. It cures almost everything. And then I found out after research that as of 1937, when they went before Congress, because nylon was this big new thing that came out, cotton, wood industry, they made it a racist issue. It makes blacks and Mexican men want to rape white women. And I was like, oh man, that's not true, because me and my buddy smoked a lot of weed. We didn't want to rape nobody. That's just ridiculous. I got high with black guys and Mexican guys and Asian guys out in Los Angeles, where it's a real true melting pot. And those things never occurred. And then my wife started getting on board. I go, if she gets on board, you know, so I literally did hundreds and hundreds of hours of research on this drug. And I thought, you know, it is a drug. It is. THC is a drug. But I thought, well, this is a miracle. I don't even refer to it as cannabis, marijuana. I call it the miracle plant. And because I still have arthritis in my back and my back's fusing itself, I really want this drug because I don't want the drugs they gave me that are going to give me a heart attack or stroke. I want cannabis to be legalized so I can feel better.
And you saw past the propaganda.
You know, it's all propaganda. I was told growing up this stuff is evil, but here's when I was a police officer, I can tell you as a former law enforcement officer, I went on thousands of domestic disturbance calls where a husband would beat up his wife or a woman would stab his wife. Trust me, I went to a lot of stabbing calls, shooting calls. Every last single call I went to was a result of some kind of pharmaceutical drug, synthetic drug the industry gave, was prescribed, legally prescribed to somebody, or alcohol abuse was the main factor in every disturbance call I went to, whether it was aggravated assault or it was a misdemeanor, domestic violence assault. Every last thing, most of it was dude was drunk, or the woman was drunk. Every car accident, most fatalities that I worked with, either somebody fell asleep at the wheel, somebody was talking on their phone, or they were drunk from alcohol. I never worked a fatality where somebody, after the blood came back from autopsy, where anybody was ever had marijuana in their system. Now, it probably happens, but that's probably because there's a combination of somebody who's smoking, getting high, and drinking alcohol. But like we say in law enforcement, you know, drunk people run stop signs, people high on marijuana, they stay at the stop sign until it turns green. And we know stop signs never turn green, so basically they fall asleep at the stop sign. I can tell you myself personally as a human being, I've been drunk many, many times. And my wife and my children can tell you, when I first got hurt, that's how I killed my pain. I was probably one of the meanest drunks you ever want to meet. I've never hit my...
You're a big guy, I don't want to have an angry version of you around.
My wife and kids would clear out. I would rant and rave when I was angry because I would fall asleep, pass out, fall asleep, wake up, groggy, mad, irritated, angry. I'd scream and I'd yell. And my wife goes, "That's enough. You're not taking that anymore. Now you're going to the doctor." Long story short, no, end right here because I'm hurting really bad and I'm going to go. I'm going to give you my phone. My phone number is right here.
Contact info. We need people like you.
Law enforcement officers have this thing, and you understand, brother, as an attorney. I used to hate attorneys when I was a cop. No offense, but I hate them. Most people do, but they hate cops worse than attorneys. But there's this little thing called officer's discretion. There are other laws that the city, there's ordinances and there's state laws and there's federal laws, and we have to enforce. We raise our right hand and we take the oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the state we're in, and then we enforce state local laws. Many times when I was a police officer, if you had marijuana, it's discretion. I'd let it go, depending on how much you have. And at the point where I became a field training officer at FTO, young guys out of the police academy would say, "Man, you let that guy go with the joint?" I'm like, come on, man, it's nothing. Why are we going to lock this guy up? Well, it hit me right before I stopped being a police officer. I quit after 10 years because I just didn't like the laws that I was having to enforce. You're right on that. But a lot of officers do have discretion. But there's things that we don't have discretion on. And one of those things we don't have discretion on is marijuana. Because I'm here to tell you right now, there are a whole lot of police that smoke marijuana off, dude. If they gave drug tests right now to law enforcement agencies, you would lose 3/4 of your law enforcement agency.
And we'd lose good officers.
You would too. Like my Major Davis, the police department used to say, "They legalized marijuana in Mississippi. Y'all don't come near my house and get a contact high." And he smoked it all the time. I'm not going to say his first name. He's not a cop anymore, police officer anymore either. But I thought I'd speak out, and I know I went probably too long and said too much, but
But don't the police officers, aren't they kind of treating their PTSD that they must get from all the stress of their job with the cannabis?
I don't know.
Better?
Possibility.
Isn't it better for our community that they treat it that way than with alcohol? Aren't they trained dangerous people?
Trained dangerous people, what do you mean?
Well, I consider police officers trained to use a gun and dangerous because they are able to know how to fight.
Train tough people.
Okay, well, I'll explain it to you. I told my mom last week, me and my mom were discussing this, and I said, "Mommy, you know, in today's the police officers, and you'll admit this, brother, they need to reorganize law enforcement academies and retrain officers. Because 99% of what a law, and I hate to say it's true, 99% of what a law enforcement officer is taught in today's police academy, and I graduated back in '94, 90% of that is how to assault the citizen. And it's not that police officers are wanting to go out and purposely, because there's some great cops out there, but we're taught how to assault you in order to preserve our lives, and we're told to preserve others. I remember a long day of PT at the police academy on my face, doing more push-ups than humanly possible, and the instructor screaming, "Going out and trying to teach you how to be killing machines." And one guy looked at me and goes, "We're police officers, we're not killing machines, it's not the military." It kind of clicked at me, man. Yeah, 99% of what I've learned was every nerve. I know every nerve in your body. I can strike it, manipulate it.
Please don't.
I'm taught. No, I wouldn't do that. I'm taught how to put up. It's called pain compliance. PPCT, pressure point control tactics. It's called pain compliance. Police officers taught where to hit you, how to kill you, where to shoot you, everything. We're taught all of that. And I remember as a 24-year-old getting out on the street going, having all this new stuff going, I can't wait to get somebody, I'm going to use all this stuff I learned. And then I grew up. But long story short, I think that there needs to be more, and people may disagree with this, there can be compassionate policing. There can be that. Police officers today really, I mean, I have respect for them too. They're not taught to be compassionate. I'm telling you this right now. They're not taught to be your friend. They're not taught to be your buddy. And 9 times out of 10, if a cop, if you come in contact with him, do what he says. I don't care how stupid he is. Do what he says. Because this police officer's mind has been trained to ignore your pleas. He's not trained to be compassionate. They're really not. They're trained to do a couple of things. Make you comply with them by any means necessary. If that means putting as much pain on you as they can possible to do it, they'll do that. But their job's not to be your buddy or your friend. Their job to take you to jail. And that's how they're trained. Long story short, I'm pro-marijuana. I'm very pro-cannabis. I hate calling it marijuana because marijuana is not the true original name for it. That's a name for our Mexican tobacco. I'm very pro-marijuana. Any way possible I can help, if I can ever come speak for you, talk to other police officers. I want to get some petitions before I leave. I'm going to be talking to pastors, and I'm going to be talking to the fundamentalists, the great fundamentalist Christians to everything. And I'm going to do my best because I want the medicine here. I want the poorest state in the union. I mean, marijuana can take us out of debt. This stuff makes the highest octane fuel, the strongest concrete. I mean, you could build a house. Do you see the plastics? They built a car already out of marijuana. The very first car to come up with assembly lines, marijuana and gasoline. It makes 4 acres of marijuana can produce 300 gallons of gasoline. That's every 5 months you can replant marijuana. I mean, think about no more oil spills out in the middle of the ocean killing our animals. We could just grow gasoline in our backyard or on 100 acres of field. I mean, think of the possibilities are endless with this plant. And so that's why I got involved and I called this young lady right here and said, hey, I talked her head off last week. She's like, Lee, slow down. And as you can tell, I'm excited about it. My mother thinks I'm nuts. She's like, shh, and you can't talk about that. I'm like, hey, Mom, I got to shout from the rooftops because if people like me stay scared, Mississippi will never get out of the. Our mentality is still 100, 200 years in the past. If Mississippi doesn't escape this mentality and start seeing marijuana not for what it's been labeled to be, but for what it could be, and it could be one of those drugs that save people's lives, completely, totally fix and heal our economy, and just make us more independent, make people more independent. I mean, people get mad at the healthcare system. It's going to cost trillions of dollars. Well, guess what? Legalize cannabis, and our federal government won't have to spend trillions of dollars. I have the cure to almost everything in my backyard. I probably wouldn't need the hospital if I could grow that legally in my backyard. I mean, honestly, right? You guys agree?
Yes.
I wouldn't need the hospital. The federal government would be loving us. They grow all you can in your backyard, man, because it would relieve all those tax dollars. Because we know nothing's free, right? You can call it free health care, but it's really not. It's going to cost. It's going to cost everybody
for that.
But if you legalize marijuana, what a burden that would be off of our healthcare system, wouldn't it?
Definitely. I want to say, Lee, I don't have to tell you this, but get his information, please. We want him to speak as soon as possible.
I appreciate that, man. I'll work with
There are good athletes and bad athletes in every group, period. Thank you for being a good athlete.
No problem. My back is killing me, man. I'm going to go get on my heating pad because that's what I've been reduced to. No more synthetic dope. I'm going to heating pad. Ice pack now. I'm not taking synthetic drugs.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. Yes, sir. Senator, please. And just as so many.
It'll help keep your blood sugar down too.
Yes, it does.
I haven't smoked for a year. So every 6 months I gotta get my blood pressure measured. Well, last time I went, they called me up and said, you need to watch yourself. Your blood sugar is getting up there pretty high.
Yes.
I feel like going back to smoking for a year now and see what my test is.
I tell you what, eat it. I know how to make butter. I know how to pull the oil off the plant. I can do all that, man. I can do it all.
Well, I just want to say one more thing on that. I want to say that just as so many military personnel, especially veterans with PTSD, are afraid to speak out on the issue, they know it helps. Officers, and a lot of people don't put this together. Police officers get PTSD bad. They see things every day that you and I don't want to look at.
Listen, my daughter is in the United States Air Force. And my daughter works for the NSA. She's in intelligence. My daughter's in intelligence, national security. And my daughter, already at 20 years old, her job was ISIS. My daughter was following those people. And my daughter knows a lot, and she came home from Georgia a couple of weeks ago. She's completely and totally stressed out. She can't tell me what she does. I'm like, well, what's wrong with you? She goes, Daddy, you don't understand the things I've seen that I know. I'm not in combat, but she goes, I have my eyes on the combat field because she reports to combat people in the field. Drones and all that stuff. I don't want to get in trouble, but long story short, they took her, now she's in Honolulu, Hawaii. I don't know what she's doing there, but she's a lot less stressed. But even a 20-year-old girl, she's seen so much and knows so much stuff. It's literally stressed her out. And my daughter said, what would you think if I smoked marijuana? I said, well, you can have the military if you want to. Fine, that'd be great. Do it. Relieve all the stress you've got.
Well, thank you for your service. We're going to be talking.
Thank you. We're talking soon. I hope to meet with
It's
you.
nice to
Hopefully
meet
have
you.
lunch
I
with
put
you.
a poster there because you're in all the branch. If there's a business or if you know more businesses, look, I need to get these posters up to
I'll try.
advertise the event this coming weekend. It's a beer tasting thing. It's not about cannabis.
That's awesome for me.
But we're gonna be collecting
I like beer.
signatures there, and we need volunteers if you'd like to go.
Is it
Friday,
Canton, Mississippi?
Canton, Mississippi.
Where's that at?
That's about 3 hours south of here, a little
Near
less than that.
Jackson.
Okay, my sister lives in Clinton, Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, anyhow. Well, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate these. And look, I've got several Christian conservatives already in line to sign this petition. I do.
You need more than that, or are you good?
I'm good. I just think we're on copies.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good to meet you.
Definitely.
All right, brother.
So we still have questions for you, because look, we're here until.
Hey, you got me as long as you need
For
me.
50 minutes.
One thing anybody will tell you about me is I'm a bit of a talker, if y'all can't tell, and I will have a coffee and a meeting with anybody that wants to discuss issues with me for as long as I'm needed. But what's your next question for me?
Okay, so I would like to know what you suggest a volunteer does when they're confronted by the police who are saying that they're soliciting. Was there anything that I should have done differently yesterday?
What I need to do, honestly, is get a group of attorneys together to craft something that they can have in their hands to hand to the officer. And we need to train these volunteers, because the last thing we want is another issue that's going to make our police look bad. Because everybody's got these smartphones and they record everything. And while it's a good thing, and a very good thing actually, it's caused tension. I mean, our police force is constantly under attack right now. And we need to make sure they know that, look, we just want to build that trust back. We don't have anything against you. So when we train volunteers, they need to be trained to not be physically, they need to be as polite as possible. And even if their constitutional rights are being violated, they need to politely comply with the officer's requests.
That's what I did.
You did that perfectly, actually. And as much as it pains me to say that, because I'm always a guy that stands up to power, and it's such a hard thing for me to say to back down. But in this case, you really should. And hopefully, once I'm able to organize some more attorney support for y'all, there can be people either on the ground or at least within phone's reach to contact when issues like this take place in the future. In fact, if this continues to happen, it might be grounds for a lawsuit.
Well, I'm not really interested in trying to burn and pillage our states and strike them with lawsuits.
Yeah.
But I do tape a lot of the confrontations that we've had with the police and then put them on the internet. And I don't want Team Legalize to view them as something that they should not do, that they should be, actively,
Actually,
antagonizing the police or
I have
arguing
something-
with them. And I haven't, and so that's why I'm interested in.
You triggered an idea in my head that actually I got to give Malcolm Levy, a longtime friend of mine, credit for this. He posted it on my Facebook wall, and it's an app that's out from Apple right now. And not everybody has iPhones. I have a Galaxy, but if you have an Apple phone, you can download it. And I wish I had the name of it on me, but we can look it up and let everybody know to have it. It's an app that the ACLU actually put out. American Civil Liberties Union.
Mobile Justice.
Mobile Justice, thank you. And when you hit that button to record, you can actually hit another button to send what just took place directly to the ACLU.
It's on my Galaxy. You can put it on your
Oh, I
Galaxy.
can? Thank you. I haven't put that on my phone yet then. Thank you.
You have to
I just
open
learned
an account
something
and
today.
everything. Susan was trying to get me to use it yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't done all the.
The problem
That's
is
the problem.
that we could only find it in California and Missouri.
Oh.
We don't have one that goes to the ACLU in Mississippi. Is there an active ACLU in Tennessee? The ACLU in
Actually, I'm
Mississippi.
on the Citizen Law Enforcement Review Board, and Bruce Kramer, an attorney, is, I don't know if he still is, I need to ask him if he still is, but I know he was at least the former representative for ACLU, the attorney for ACLU in Memphis. Is he still, do you know?
I do not.
We have another attorney in the room right here, Ralph Noyes. But I'll
Yeah, can we get local justice to click because it automatically sends it, but the one we picked will automatically send it to the ACLU office in Missouri. It would be nice if we could send it to an ACLU
sure.
office in
And
Memphis.
y'all seem like extremely organized people, which is great. So if you could do me one favor and remind me, send me a reminder, because I'm about the busiest I've ever been in my life right now. But if y'all could send me a reminder to contact him and see if we can set up something in Mississippi, because this is obviously a big issue here. And anybody we talk to, I don't care where they're at in the country, they know what happens down here in the South, and or at least they have an idea of it. I'm pretty sure we can find some national support to come on board. Yeah.
Saying that national support is actually what my next question is about. Even though we have the most wonderful ballot initiative that the rest of the nation would profit by having if they changed the way that we are suggesting to
Sure.
regulate cannabis like alcohol, we have gotten very little national attention or press or really anything. NORML has not refused to help us write the initiative, but that's because they didn't think we'd really do it. They laughed and said that we would be the last state because we were one of the last for alcohol. And it seems like the media also is thinking that it'll never happen in Mississippi instead of giving us a chance and at least covering what we've written. Is there something that Tennessee can do, NORML Tennessee can do, to help Mississippi get more press? Because we are only as good as our volunteers, and we don't have experience in doing a ballot initiative or in getting press nationally or in promoting this. And I found that like radio shows, what they want to just talk about is people getting high and not about the medicinal qualities. And I only feel qualified to talk about the initiative, not about the medical benefits. And it just seems that people of Tennessee could really help Mississippi if they have the know-how on how to get the nation to look at what Mississippi's doing, because the nation's focus could bring more Mississippians out to sign the petition.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to point out that NORML Memphis does not condone breaking any laws. And we also, in the states where it is legal, we don't condone irresponsible use. You don't need to be going to your job or when you have responsibilities, unless you're a medical patient, you shouldn't be going into those places under the influence. So we promote responsible use where it's legal, and we promote change the law where it's not. That being said, and to get back to your question, I got a little sidetracked there. National NORML and MPP, I'm familiar with both of them. I've actually met St. Alan Pierre back when he came and visited the University of Memphis back in 2006 when we were organizing UM NORML. And just recently, I actually interviewed. I was one of the finalists. I didn't get the job. I hate admitting that, but I was one of the finalists for a marijuana policy project state campaign director. I would have been in charge, which would have put me in charge of all the ballot initiatives across the country on this issue. So didn't get that job, but I think it's given me a chance to really really focus on my hometown. I love my city, and I'm getting ready to bring a lot of change to it if the voters will allow me to. Not ready to announce yet, though, even though everybody's already kind of put it out there. But to get back to that too, though, the fact that from that knowledge of the national organizations, I can tell you they have limited resources, especially NORML. NORML's like doing a very big revamp right now, and I think we're going to see a lot of good things coming from them soon. National NORML, that is. MPP's on their game. They've done an excellent job. They're the reason that it's legal in 4 states in our nation's capital. But because of that limited resource, they have to see that something is actually possible before they invest those resources. And it's going to be our job to show them that this is possible. First, we need to get the signatures. Getting the signatures on its own, I promise you, if that happens, they're going to turn their heads and the national stuff's going to flow in. Until then, Tennessee NORML, like I said, huge group, and it's backed and run by very good people. And you happen to have a very, very, very experienced, especially for my age, campaign manager just north of you in Memphis. And I'm going to be glad. I've spent my life volunteering my time for various causes. This is not the only issue I fight on at all. And you can go back to my resume to see some of the other stuff I fought on. But but I'm happy to volunteer my time and provide whatever support and advice I can possibly provide for you, just as I did for Nashville recently with their recent efforts, and Tennessee NORML can back me up on that. But you have a question, ma'am? What is it?
Yes. As an officer of the court, it has been very distressing for me to see how undereducated or willfully ignorant the clerks of the circuit clerks are when it comes to processing the petitions. We have had petitions, it's like they never heard of the ballot initiative process, even though the ballot initiative 42 that's on the ballot this year, this election, was done last year. We turn in petitions, and then we go back and, oh, somebody just came and took them out of the basket. We don't know what happened to them. Oh, we don't know what happened to those petitions. Oh, we've only gotten 2 petitions. Oh, what is it? One clerk, she rejected a signature because she couldn't read the cursive signature, where it was clearly printed 2 columns over. Now, here's my question. How can we, is there anything that we can legally do to get them to cough up 2 things? One is to cough up the original petitions, which the state requires us to submit by the deadline. And the second thing is their report, the report on how many people have been certified to sign the petition. How can we go about getting that? As I said, I've dealt with clerks in Virginia and Maryland.
Sure.
It was a whole different picture than it is in Mississippi. I'm just astounded.
Well, based on your question, I think there's 2 things that have to be done. First, and I hope if we can raise the money to do this, I think that might become an issue, and I suggested this to Tennessee NORML when they were with their efforts in Nashville as well. We need to start making, and once again, I know this is costly, and I'll donate as much paper as I physically can. I'm a young lawyer, not a rich one, but we need to make copies of all the petitions before you turn them in, because unfortunately, sometimes either it's a lack. I don't want to say whether it's a lack of organization or whether it's a lack of good intent, but it's good to have a backup copy of everything you turn in. The other thing I want to suggest, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there at all, but the other thing I want to suggest, and this is probably the more important thing for us to do, is we really need to have a meeting with the election commissioner that's in charge of all this, and I would be happy to participate in that meeting. And yeah, I'll throw the suit and tie on and come down here if I need to.
That's the other problem, is that one of the clerks sent us photocopies of the petitions. She said, oh, I couldn't find the original petitions, but here are photocopies of the ones with the certified signatures. Well, you can't submit photocopies to the Secretary of State's office. You have to be original. So, either she did that on purpose, or she doesn't know any better than she's ignorant.
While you can't submit those copies, and once again, you were right earlier when you said we don't need to burden the state with frivolous laws, or I shouldn't call it frivolous, actually, you shouldn't, that's a term that's used way too often, but we shouldn't burden the state with lawsuits. It already has enough of a budget issue, I'm sure. But at the same time, what those copies could be used for is evidence that there was not either, like I said, I don't want to try to guess whether it's a lack of good intent or a lack of organization, but to have that body of evidence, if it ever did have to unfortunately come down to a lawsuit, that would be really strong evidence that you did the right thing, because we can't, there's only so far we can get into that office. And the best thing you can do really is build the evidence up, in my opinion.
Well, some clerks, I have to say, some clerks are really, really helpful. One clerk, we visited a lot of clerks in person. One clerk was so helpful. He told us how he marked the signatures and what his coding meant, whether they were purged, not registered to vote, or registered at a different address. Some of them will even write the correct address in on the petition. So not all the clerks are like that. But it's distressing to me, as somebody who has worked in the legal system, to see the clerks, especially in some of the more urban areas, that they just, it seems to me it's either willful ignorance, or they don't care, or they don't understand. They're elected officers. They're not appointed, they're elected. That's the other thing. I was thinking, there should be a way we can remind them that, the people who signed the petition, or the voters, are going to put them back in office. But because voter turnout in Mississippi is so low, that's not really, that really doesn't carry much weight.
Definitely. Imagine what this state would look like if the 40% of African Americans that live here actually all turned out and voted.
Well, when people died to get the civil right, the 1965 Voters Act passed, people died, and yet people aren't willing to go out and vote now and use the right that people died for.
Sure.
People in Mississippi
If
died.
they won't give you back the originals to submit to Jackson, possession of those copies are damn good ammunition.
Yeah. Well,
They're
also,
ammunition for if, okay, you're gonna do it that way, you'll have to come back at it this way.
Excuse
Well,
me,
if we
but
can-
why couldn't you have scans? Then you have an
That's true.
electronic and the option of hard copies at will.
okay,
Brilliant idea.
the
That saves
clerk's
money too.
offices
Save
have a
paper.
list. The
That's great.
clerk's offices have a digital list of everybody whose signature has been certified.
I mean, if
We
somebody
can't get
wrote
them
me
to
a
give
bunch
us
of
those digital
papers,
lists.
just put them on a brother copier
I like
and
that.
scan them.
She
The
just,
thing is,
this is a great idea.
they wanna destroy the license.
I did not hear her idea, I'm sorry.
But you
Well,
can back
I
them
said
up.
earlier, I was
You wanna
concerned
back
about the
them up.
cost of
You can have
paper
multiple backups.
with
Yes.
printing those copies, so why don't we just scan them? That's a wonderful idea, then you don't have the paper cost, then it's really just, hopefully one of the people that turns their bleeding hearts into bleeding hands doesn't mind running that paper through a scanner for
And
us.
you can put them on an external drive and you can have them in multiple locations electronically and you can produce them at will.
This is why it's good for multiple people to come together and discuss ideas, because I'm no genius, I'm just very good at surrounding myself with them. But thank you so much for your input and for everything y'all said today. Is there any more questions anybody has since we've had this great discussion going on? Everybody good? Well, let me turn it back over to our leader, our fearless Mississippi leader.
Fearless. Yay, John! Oh, and you handled yourself with such dignity and education and finesse. Thank you so much. What a wonderful speaker you've been. And we haven't had a big turnout today, but we're going to have a big turnout on the
Because people are
internet.
afraid.
Yes, and there's just nothing